breakup, that you need to wait before you're really ready to get back out there and date again. Many of us have heard from friends and family that you need to wait 2 years, a month for every year you've been married, and basically those are all false. There is no research to support any of those myths. Contrary then to what your friends or family may tell you, studies show that there's no predetermined period of time that you need to wait before you get out there and date again. Some people emotionally separate while they're still in a relationship. So when they get divorced or when they're all done with a relationship, they're really ready to date again. Others need the actual physical separation, the final divorce decree, to really mourn and wait and think and analyze before they're ready to date again. So the real thing to remember is that you need to ask yourself, are you ready to trust and care about another person? And that's what will determine if you're ready to date again.
That's wonderful. I absolutely agree with you. And one of the best things for me getting out back dating again was getting to that place where I said exactly that. Well, am I willing to be open again? And it took a little time, I have to say. Now, the other thing you say is sort of a debunker of the myths is opposites don't attract. Tell us about that a little bit.
That is so very true. What we know is that it's really birds of a feather flock together. That what you want for long-term happiness and a long-term relationship is someone who is similar to you, someone who has the same underlying values and attitudes. So someone who has the same approach to money or importance of religion, the value of family or children. That's what you're looking for. It may be exciting to have someone who's not who's opposite to you, but what you want is similarity over the long haul.
Now, I love the questionnaire about how sort of finding out if you're emotionally ready after a breakup. I love that questionnaire. Tell us about that.
Well, first, everyone has what I call emotional baggage. You know, the emotions, either positive or negative, that are connected to the past relationships, the ex-partners, or even your childhood. But I like to think about it as going on an airplane, and many of us have this heavy baggage that we take on the airplane, and someone says, well, you can't go on the airplane right now, you need to check that bag. And some of us have light carry-on baggage. What you want is to have the light carry-on baggage. You don't want to have emotional baggage that weighs you down. And so I have a questionnaire or a quiz in the book that asks you about how heavy is your emotional baggage. So you want to ask yourself, do you still have photos of your ex in your home? Many of us have these photo albums, or we even have furniture or jewelry that our ex has given us. And what we really need to do is get rid of those emotional baggage or get rid of those emotional triggers. Some of us may find ourselves wishing that we were still with our ex, or we might even call our ex's voicemail and to just listen, or to our ex's voice, or some of us go to their Facebook pages and see what they're doing.
Not good.
Their photos.
So a lot of these are really good tools for those of us who are going out there and looking around. And it's a really great reminder for us. If you kind of check in, take your emotional pulse, if you look at some of these questions, they really are terrific and makes you think about it. Do you cry or feel sad when you think of your ex-relationship? I can say for sure, no. Yet there are some folks out there who still are kind of feeling this vulnerability around their relationships. Now, the other thing you suggest, which I really like so much, is creating a narrative or a story around your divorce and how you got through it. And it's a really nice stepped process here, developing your divorce story. How do we go about doing that?
Well, I think it's important to think about the past and try to think about what went wrong in the previous relationship that led to the divorce or the breakup. One of the things that I did with my long-term study on marriage and divorce is ask the divorced individuals to make that story, come up with that story. Those individuals adjust better after the divorce, and we're significantly more likely to find a new partner. So coming up with that story and even sharing it with a friend or a family member, get their feedback, get their reactions, ask them what do they think of the story, was all helpful in the process after divorce and or the termination of a relationship.
Now, what I liked too is you suggested really taking a look at, is there sort of this component of blame in the end of your relationship in your story? And maybe if you get past the blame part, you will start feeling better. And I like that very much. I thought that was a good thing.
Thank you. Well, it was very evident that for those divorced singles who were able to give what I call a relationship blame statement, they were able to use a we statement for why their relationship ended. Like, we weren't ready to get married, we were too young, we had too many differences. If you can have a relationship blame statement, you're much more likely to cope better and find new love again. Now, this is very challenging for many people because many people give what I call a partner blame statement. My partner did this, my partner did that. Those people continue to hold on to the anger, and they're less likely to move forward and find new love. Other people are going to give what I call an I blame statement. Yes. I didn't do this. I was too young. I wasn't able to communicate. And when you give an I blame statement, you're much more likely to feel depressed, guilty, or sad, and just as not likely to move forward and find new love. So those we blame statements are so very important to cope better and find new love again.
Really important information, and this is such a strong part of healing and getting through a relationship that fell apart and being ready to welcome in a new love in your life. And you really do need to sort of go through this emotional processing and narrative and developing your own story. So any listeners out there who are thinking about getting back out there or are participating right now in dating after many years possibly, I'm on the phone right now with Terri Orbuch. She has written a wonderful book, Finding Love Again, 6 Simple Steps to a New and Happy Relationship. And as I said earlier in the show, I am so thankful, since this is Thanksgiving, a month of gratitude, for the love in my life. And Vinny, who I found after starting to date again, is my new husband, and I'm so grateful. And I wish I'd had this book to help me out because this has been so terrific. Now, the other thing that I loved about this was you actually come up with a action plan, a 21-day action plan. And where do we start?
Right. Well, the first 4 steps in the book are based on my long-term research of marriage, divorce, and new love. And what I found is that it's very important to look at your attitudes, your emotions, your behaviors, and your sense of self. And the action plan has to do with changing your behaviors. You really need to change a simple behavior in your life in order to be more likely to be open for new love. And what I found is that the singles in my study only changed one simple behavior. And when they did that for at least 21 days, they were much more likely to find new love. Because what happens is when we get divorced, we experience a breakup, we're likely to do or behave as doing things that are familiar to us, our habitual habits. And in order to have an action plan, you need to pick a behavior and change at least one thing and do it in a new way. Do something different, like change the amount of time you spend at the gym, change the approach to money that you have, anything simple, different for at least 21 days will shake you up a little bit and open yourself up to finding new love again.
Now, one of the things I noticed that was so simple, and many people do this. I think we're a culture of workaholics to a certain degree. Even working a little less changed your behavior, changed up your day a little bit, and that helps singles too. Is that right?
Absolutely, because the singles in my long-term study said if I
Now, it takes courage. It takes courage for folks to go back out there, especially if they've been very hurt in their past relationships, to be open, as you're saying, to change behaviors, to really look at their life and say, how can I make this story okay, and mitigate all of that emotional hurt and the baggage, and walk back out the door and say, I can let somebody in. That's a very tough thing to do. Do some of your singles push back on you about this?
Absolutely. You know, it's very challenging and difficult when you experience the loss, either due to divorce or death or separation of a relationship. We have many trust issues going on, and we're afraid to get back out there. Are we too old? Will I ever find someone again? Am I going to make the same mistakes?
Yes.
First important thing to remember is that many people are feeling exactly the same way as you. These are common questions and common challenges. But at the same time, I think the most important message is that those singles who are able to be optimistic and able to be positive about going back out there and finding new love again, we're also significantly more likely to find new love again. Optimism is so important. Positive approach. People are attracted to others that are positive. If you are positive and optimistic, that motivates you to actually then get back out there. You see the world in a new light, and you see yourself in a new and positive way.
Wonderful.
So it's a very common, but stay optimistic and positive.
Terri, thank you so much for being on the show. Your message is so important, and it's all about finding love again, 6 simple steps to a new and happy relationship. Positive attitude, changing behaviors. There's some great things you can do to be open and ready for love again. So thank you, Terri. I really appreciate you talking to me today on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.